Carl Jung, the pioneering psychologist, once offered a profound insight. Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. Think about it. How often have you felt that surge of annoyance towards someone? Perhaps it's the colleague who dominates every conversation, the perpetually late friend, or the driver who swerves recklessly in front of you. These moments of frustration are universal, triggering a visceral reaction, a clenched jaw, a racing heart, or a simmering anger. But here's the twist. According to Jung, these irritations aren't just about the other person. They're clues pointing inward to the parts of ourselves we've buried or ignored. It's a jarring thought, isn't it? We're quick to blame the outside world, to pin our frustrations on the flaws of others. Yet Jung challenges us to see these moments differently. He suggests that what grates on us in others often mirrors the qualities we've rejected or hidden within ourselves. In other words, our irritation is a reflection, an uncomfortable but revealing glimpse into the shadows of our own psyche. Hermann Hesse, another thinker deeply influenced by Jung, once said, "If you hate a person, you hate something in him that is part of yourself. What isn't part of ourselves doesn't disturb us." It's a bold statement, but it carries a profound truth. When something or someone gets under our skin, it's often because it touches on a vulnerability or an insecurity within us. This is the essence of what Jung called projection. Projection is a defense mechanism, an unconscious process where we displace our unwanted feelings, thoughts, or traits onto others. We might project our own insecurities, fears, and unresolved emotions onto those around us, turning them into screens onto which we cast our inner conflicts. For instance, if you're annoyed by someone who constantly seeks attention, it might be because you too crave validation but are uncomfortable admitting it. Or if a friend's lateness drives you crazy, it might point to your own struggles with control and patience. Projections change the world into the replica of one's own unknown face, Jung said. In other words, our projections create a distorted view of reality, making us believe that the flaws we see in others are external problems rather than internal reflections. The world becomes a mirror of our hidden self, showing us the parts we've tried to bury. We end up trapped in an illusion, reacting to our own shadow rather than the true essence of the person in front of us. Think about it. How often do you get irritated by someone who is arrogant or boastful? It's easy to label them as obnoxious or self-centered, but why does it bother you so much? If you dig a little deeper, you might find that it triggers a sense of inadequacy within you, a fear that you are not enough, and a resentment towards those who appear more confident or successful. In this way, the person who irritates you becomes a catalyst for introspection. Instead of just reacting with annoyance, Jung invites us to ask, what is this irritation telling me about myself? Jung's concept of the shadow is crucial here. The shadow represents the unconscious parts of our personality that we suppress, often because they don't fit the image we want to project to the world. These hidden aspects include not only our darker traits, like jealousy, greed, and anger, but also qualities we might actually admire, but don't allow ourselves to embody, like assertiveness or ambition. When we encounter these traits in others, they stir something inside us, often manifesting as irritation. The challenge is that our shadow doesn't simply vanish because we choose to ignore it. It lingers, an inseparable part of our psyche, quietly shaping our thoughts, emotions, and actions in ways we often fail to recognize. Like an unseen current beneath the surface of a calm sea, it pulls us in directions we don't fully understand, manifesting in behaviors that can be subtly destructive. We might find ourselves lashing out at others, judging them with undue harshness, or becoming excessively critical, unaware that these reactions are not truly about them. They are reflections of our own unresolved inner conflicts. Carl Jung once remarked, "It is often tragic to see how blatantly a man bungles his own life and the lives of others, yet remains totally incapable of seeing how much the whole tragedy originates in himself." This blindness to our own role in our suffering traps us in a relentless cycle of blame and frustration. We point fingers at the world, convinced that it is flawed, irritating, or unjust, all the while remaining oblivious to the fact that what we perceive as external imperfections are often projections of our own inner turmoil. The shadow, in its elusive nature, distorts our perception, making it difficult to see that the discomfort we feel is not solely the fault of the world around us, but stems from the parts of ourselves we have yet to confront. Until we turn inward and acknowledge these hidden aspects, we remain prisoners of our own unconscious patterns, perpetuating the very struggles we seek to escape. The journey towards self-awareness is not easy, but it is only by facing our shadow that we can begin to break free from its grip and truly understand the roots of our discontent. But there's a silver lining. Recognizing our projections can be incredibly transformative. It's an opportunity for growth, a chance to reclaim the parts of ourselves we have disowned. When we catch ourselves reacting with irritation, we can pause and ask, what part of me does this reflect? This kind of introspection isn't easy. It requires honesty and a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths about ourselves. But it's also the key to greater self-awareness and a more integrated personality. Let's take a practical example. Imagine you're at work and a colleague constantly takes credit for ideas you contributed. You feel a surge of irritation and maybe even anger. It's easy to direct that frustration outward, labeling the colleague as selfish or manipulative. But if you take a moment to reflect, you might realize that your irritation stems from your own need for recognition, a need that perhaps wasn't met in childhood or that you feel uncomfortable acknowledging as an adult. This doesn't mean your colleague's behavior is acceptable, but it does mean that your strong emotional reaction is revealing something deeper about your own psyche. Jung's wisdom isn't about excusing bad behavior or letting others walk all over you. It's about using your emotional reactions as a tool for self-discovery. Setting boundaries and standing up for yourself are important, but so is the internal work of examining why certain behaviors trigger such strong responses in you. The goal isn't to suppress your irritation, but to understand it, and through understanding, to heal and grow. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate, Jung famously said. By bringing our projections into the light, we take back control over our reactions. We stop blaming others for our discomfort and start taking responsibility for our own inner work. This shift can be liberating. The people who once irritated us become our teachers, showing us the parts of ourselves we have yet to integrate. This process is not easy. It requires vulnerability and a willingness to confront the darker aspects of your psyche. But it's worth it. The more you explore your projections, the less power they have over you. You begin to see others more clearly, free from the distortions of your own unconscious mind. Your relationships improve, and you find a deeper sense of inner peace. Consider the case of someone who gets annoyed by others who are lazy or unmotivated. They might label them as weak or irresponsible, feeling a strong sense of irritation whenever they encounter such behavior. But if they look within, they might discover that this irritation stems from their own fear of being perceived as lazy or a deep-seated belief that their worth is tied to their productivity. By acknowledging this, they can begin to address the root cause of their irritation rather than just reacting on the surface. Knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darknesses of other people, said Jung. When you understand your own insecurities, fears, and unresolved emotions, you become more compassionate both towards yourself and towards others. You realize that everyone carries a shadow and that most of us are simply doing our best to navigate a complex inner world. So the next time you feel a wave of irritation rising up inside you, pause for a moment. Instead of immediately reacting or judging the other person, take a deep breath and turn your attention inward. Ask yourself, what is this irritation revealing about me? Often, these emotional reactions are not just about the external situation or the other person. They are mirrors reflecting something deeper within ourselves. That flicker of annoyance or surge of frustration might be pointing you toward a part of your shadow that you have yet to acknowledge. It could be highlighting an insecurity, a fear, or a wounded aspect of your psyche that you've tried to bury or ignore. This kind of introspection isn't always comfortable. It might bring up painful memories, unresolved emotions, or qualities about yourself that you'd rather not confront. It can feel unsettling to realize that the very traits you criticize in others might exist within you, or that the emotions you're quick to project outward have their roots in your own unhealed wounds. Yet this discomfort is not a sign of failure. It's an invitation to grow. By facing your shadow, you begin the process of integrating these hidden parts of yourself into your conscious awareness. This integration is not about erasing or condemning these aspects, but about understanding and accepting them as part of your whole being. In doing so, you embark on a path toward healing and wholeness, a journey that requires courage, honesty, and a willingness to sit with discomfort. As you begin to break free from the cycle of blame and projection, you start to see patterns in your behavior that once felt automatic or justified. You realize that the judgments you cast on others often say more about your own unmet needs, fears, or unhealed wounds than about the people you're judging. This awareness is transformative. It allows you to step back from reactive emotions and respond to situations with greater intention and clarity. As you develop a deeper understanding of yourself, you naturally extend that understanding to others. The world no longer appears as a flawed and irritating place filled with people who are out to get you. Instead, you begin to see it through a lens of empathy and interconnectedness. You recognize that everyone, including yourself, is carrying their own burdens, wrestling with their own shadows, and doing the best they can with the tools they have. This shift in perspective softens your heart and opens you to a more compassionate way of relating to others. By embracing your shadow, you not only become a more complete version of yourself, but also cultivate a more authentic way of being in the world. You stop hiding behind masks or pretending to be someone you're not, and instead you step into the fullness of who you are, flaws, vulnerabilities, and all. This authenticity is liberating. It allows you to connect with others on a deeper level, to build relationships rooted in honesty and mutual understanding, and to navigate life's challenges with greater resilience and grace. Ultimately, the work of integrating your shadow is not just about personal growth. It's about contributing to a more compassionate and conscious world. As you heal and transform, you become a beacon of light for others, showing them that it's possible to face their own shadows and emerge stronger, wiser, and more whole. In this way, the journey inward becomes a gift not only to yourself, but to everyone around you. Ultimately, Jung's teachings offer us a powerful tool for personal growth. Irritation and frustration are not just unpleasant feelings to be avoided or suppressed. They are signals guiding us towards deeper self-awareness. By embracing this discomfort and exploring its source, we can transform our irritation into a source of insight and growth. In a world filled with distractions and constant external noise, this kind of inner work can feel like a radical act. It requires turning our gaze inward, confronting our own darkness, and taking responsibility for our emotional responses. But the rewards are immense. We find greater peace, improved relationships, and a deeper understanding of ourselves. So the next time someone gets on your nerves, remember Jung's words. Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. Instead of reacting with frustration or anger, take it as an opportunity for introspection. The person who irritates you might just be a mirror, reflecting back a part of yourself you've been trying to avoid. And in that reflection, you might find the key to a more integrated, compassionate, and fulfilling life.